It's very clear that 114 out of the 138 members of the House and Senate, both Republicans and Democrats, agree with me as governor that there is a very simple way to solve this shortfall in the Medicaid budget, and that is to solve it with Medicaid money. 114 out of 138 members of the General Assembly, both Republican and Democrat, have come out very strongly in agreement with me that we don't need to cut the education of our kids or our seniors or all of the other folks that will suffer, our prosecutors, our state police, our social workers, our college students, to solve this problem. You know, if we had a financial crisis, then we would have to be looking at all of these kinds of things, but we don't. Not only is the proposal to cut education and all of these other things unnecessary or unreasonable, it's also unnecessary. I'm hopeful that between now and March the 21st, at some point, some folks in the Senate will come to their senses and decide that they will work with us to resolve this matter because the alternatives are not pretty. If we do not pass a budget that solves the Medicaid problem, that inaction will force me to make about 30% cuts in provider rates for the providers in the Medicaid program. This includes all of the small county hospitals, the nursing homes, all the folks that rely upon Medicaid. It will cause the closings of some of these small county hospitals, I am told, and that will rest upon the head of those in the Senate who would not take action. Obviously, we're not going to balance this budget on the backs of our kids and on the backs of social workers and prosecutors and state police. We're not going to do that. There are, I think now, 3 proposals on the table that the House part of the conference committee put forth. All of those are reasonable. All of them utilize Medicaid money to balance the Medicaid budget. And we stand ready and willing to work on those and to get something done. You know, it's time for the Senate to step up and continue this work. They actually have a lot of other work to do right now. They have something, I think, 20-something confirmations still pending. You know, the Senate puts great pride in the fact that on many of these important boards and commissions in the Commonwealth, their consent is required for these appointments. You know, I fully expect them to step up and do their job by the 21st of March and consider these appointments and to confirm these appointments. We've got appointments up to the Council on Post-Secondary Education, Fish and Wildlife, the KEME Board, the Kentucky Department of Education, that's the State School Board, the Kentucky Housing Corporation, the Lottery Corporation, Mine Safety Review, the Parole Board, the Personnel Board, and many, many more. And so they also have a lot of unfinished work to do, and I fully expect them to continue this work and to be here on the 21st and finish this work as well as pass a budget.
Governor, Senate President Williams had said that part of the reason the Senate wants to impose some of these cuts is because he says the governor has failed to do any cost savings, and he specifically pointed to issues regarding non-merit employees, efficiencies within the budget, and he says there have been an increased number of personal service contracts. In summary, he basically says that you haven't, the governor hasn't stuck to the Senate committee substitute, the budget that was passed in the special session. What do you say to that?
Well, in short, he's inaccurate in his assessment, obviously. I think we've cut so far over $5 million in non-merit payroll reductions. We've cut a number of contracts. As you know, we furloughed state employees, a vote that he made and was very proud of until, I guess, this year rolled around. We've done a lot of efficiencies. We were required to find $131 million of unspecified efficiencies in this first year of the biennium, and we're doing that. We're going to meet that goal. So we are meeting what the budget requires us to do, and we will meet it next year too. You know, the fallacy of all this, and the speaker pointed it out, I think, in his remarks a little earlier, is that I've had to balance this budget 8 times in 3 years. I know how to do this. I have managed this state and its budget through 3.5 years of the worst financial recession of our lifetimes. And I'm going to be able to do it again. I'm confident that we will do it again. We've done it every time up to now, and we will do it for this next year. The plan we've put forth, all the evidence out there, all of the testimony out there, all of the studies out there indicate that these savings can be achieved. Not one shred of evidence has been put forth that they can't, except Senator Williams doesn't think we can. Well, that's not evidence, and it's time that they step up and get to work, and let's get this behind us. You know, this is a simple matter. They've made it a complex matter, but it's not complex. It's simple.
It seems as though both sides are at an impasse at this point. Do you feel the need to call a special session? Would you recommend that both chambers just sine die and then we'll see how cooler heads can prevail in the weeks to come?
No, there's no reason for a special session. They've still got a number of days, including a final day, I think on March the 21st. They've got plenty of time to resolve these issues. They've got plenty of time for the Senate to confirm the appointments that have been put forth and to finish their work. Actually, a special session would once again waste the taxpayers' money. They've got time right now in their constitutionally provided time period to do their work. You know, this has happened several times now. It seems like Senator Williams enjoys special sessions on budgets, but I am not for wasting any more of the taxpayers' money in special sessions. They've done it now, he's done it now a number of times, and we don't need to waste the taxpayers' money again.
It's the House who seems adamant that they won't give up that veto day on the 21st. I mean, if they don't do something today, either they have to give that up, which they've said they won't, or you don't have an agreement, or you have a special session.
What do you mean they won't give up the day?
They basically said they won't give up that last veto day. So, you know, anything they would pass, they can't pass that on the 21st and then have a veto override day. And the speaker said he wouldn't cede legislative power.
So you're talking about if the time passes to where the bill would become veto proof? Is that what you're saying?
The standard under which he
Right.
has established, they either pass it today or it's not going to be passed in this session.
Well, no, I don't think the House Speaker said that. I think what he said is that the power to override the veto is important to him, just like it's important to President Williams. Well, just the fact that the time has passed and I could constitutionally prevent them from overriding my veto doesn't mean that I won't sit down and work with them if they can come up with a bill that meets my specifications and agree to look at it and perhaps sign it earlier so that they would have some time to look at it.
What is the key thing along that line for you, Governor? Just not cutting education, or what are the criteria do you anticipate?
Well, my basic line is the same, is the bottom line that 114 House and Senate members have, and that is we don't need to go outside of the Medicaid budget to balance this budget. We don't need to be cutting our school kids. We don't need to be cutting our social workers or our police or our fire or our seniors or our veterans or anybody else. It's not necessary. And so those folks have been cut over $1 billion so far in the last 3.5 years. And so there's no reason to go out and do something unnecessary to those folks. They've been cut pretty good already.
If you have to make those 30% cuts to providers, when would those cuts take effect?
We will have to be sending notices out pretty soon, and we would work on the effective date. But you know, we would have to make up that money by June 30. The money that you know the Senate right now is refusing to fill in terms of the hole in the Medicaid budget.
So virtually immediate.
Oh, it would have to be very quickly, and it would be very harmful not only to those providers but for employment. In some of those areas, those are some of the major employers, and people would have to be put out of work for a 3 or 4 month period, and some of them would have to close. I don't see any way around that.
Governor, do you know how many?
No other alternative other than to cut providers?
Not at this point. That is the only way we can come up with that large an amount of money, because we have gone through and we have cut and made a lot of efficiencies already, and to come up with this hunk of money without staging it through the next 18 months like we're proposing to do, and do it with managed care savings, the only option that you have is provider rate cuts.
Do you know how many would have to close, or how many?
You know, that's up to each one of them, but I just know that for many of these providers, 70, 80, sometimes 90% of their funding comes from the Medicaid program. And they can't keep their heads above water if they get 30% cuts in that.
What effect does that have on the people that use your services?
Well, obviously, that is the ultimate problem with all of this, is that these places would not be able to provide the services that the Kentuckians need to stay alive and stay healthy. You know, this is a crisis that is made up, and we don't need to be fooling with this kind of stuff. It's ridiculous that we're having to even debate the approach here, because there's such a simple approach, and it's so simple and so easy that 114 out of 138 agree with it and agree with my approach to it, and it's Republicans and Democrats alike. We all understand what we need to do, and it's just time to get on and get it done.
No recipients will have to be cut off the rolls.
No, we cannot reduce our eligibles. I mean, the federal law right now prevents us from reducing our eligibility standards, and so no, we can't cut eligibles off the rolls.
Would we be doing this if there was not a gubernatorial race this year?
Well, I'll leave that one for you all to ponder. I do not recall, let's put it this way, I don't recall a time when a governor and 114 out of 138 members of the General Assembly, both Republican and Democrat, agreed on the action that was appropriate to take, and that action wasn't taken.
With the higher education, if they don't pass that by July 1st, are we in danger of losing our federal match, or can you explain that?
As I understand it, we received, it's the education jobs money, isn't it, Mary? And we received how much? 134.9 million through that federal legislation. But we had to make sure that we had we met some maintenance of effort requirements, and we met it in the K through 12 area. We didn't meet it in the higher education area. And so part of what we're needing to pass is technically moving some money in order to meet the higher education maintenance of effort requirement. And if we don't, yes, we are in danger of the federal government saying, you've got to pay us $135 million back because you didn't meet the requirements of it.
Should that be done in a separate piece of legislation?
I think it all should be done at the same time. There isn't any magic to this stuff. This is one of the simplest budget solutions that we have had in a long, long time. You know, we put this solution out in November, and nobody squawked about it, nobody yelled about it, nobody said that it was bad. You know, we brought it in here, we introduced it as a bill, we had hearings in the House, they passed it overwhelmingly. Our people went over and testified for how long? 6 hours in the Senate on this, and 2 or 3 days before the end of this session is the first time we see any alternative proposal. A proposal popped out by Senator Williams that wants to cut everything in sight. That is not the way to do business. And they've had plenty of time to look at this, review it. If they'd had any serious doubts that we could achieve the savings that we're saying, they could have brought them out early. We could have vetted it. This thing could have been completely vetted by the other side if they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They just want to disagree. You know, it's time to put aside the partisanship, and it's time to get together here as Kentuckians, get this done, and move on. And the partisanship has been put aside by House Republicans and House Democrats. It's time that the Senate Republicans do the same thing and step up, and let's get the job done.